In the last 10 years. The Princess and I started making wines in 2005 in Turkey, and we inherited a lot of history, both good and bad. And what today hopefully will represent is the things that we cherish, that we kept, that we thought were really good at history, and in history, and those things that have evolved since. Some of the wines I think are really quite exciting. This first flight, for instance, I think is a very, very exciting flight. And then the last flight I think is really eye-opening as to what some of the qualities of native Turkish varietals can be. So again, welcome. There's no real rules other than we're not going to change glasses. At some point, they will put a bottle of white wine on your table and use that as a palate cleanser, because some of the wines we have are a bit robust. So instead of using water, having a fresh white can help. Özge Kaymaz is, well, I'll start before that. I've been making wine for about 35 years, and I've trained a bunch of winemakers, and by far she's the most talented winemaker I've ever trained, far better than I will ever be. Özge is a food engineer. For the first 2 years that we worked together, she wouldn't talk to me. She would just sit in the corner and taste and listen. And it was after me screaming at her over and over, you have to give me your opinion, you have to give me your opinion, that we started really working together and doing well. She then went on to get her master's in viticulture, and we've been working side by side ever since. And 99% of anything good you'll taste today is because of her, not because of me.
Yeah.
And she is,
And she agrees.
and she is referred to as the princess in the company. The gods were smiling on me.
Yeah, but what actually happened?
I think first we'd have to have a discussion as to what actually defines mental illness. Where is that line? It's a really kind of boring story, but I'm very lucky that I'm there. I guess.
So, had you worked for other wineries in Turkey before?
No.
You worked in Italy and America,
All over.
All over.
Yeah. The long and short of it is the alcohol monopoly in Turkey was called tekel, and the government owned it. And some buddies of mine that I'd worked with previously, it was a private equity fund, they had bought Beringer from Nestle. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. It was many years ago, right? Well, at that time, they'd asked me if I'd help them evaluate the wines of Beringer. You have to assign a value to it, right? And so we went through all the tanks and tasted, and Ed Sabraja was an old friend of mine, so we just kind of went and did this with one of the guys. And to their, I guess, sadly, they remembered me when they bought the alcohol monopoly in Turkey. Well, actually, it was another company that bought it, and then TBG bought it from them. Right. So Texas Pacific Group bought the alcohol, privatized or semi-privatized alcohol monopoly in Turkey, and they had mostly that is a company of distillate. They made gin and brandy and rakı, which is kind of the national drink of Turkey. Lots and lots of that. I think at the time they had beer, and they had a bunch of wineries. They had 7 wineries, and they had a lot of wine, and they weren't making any money. And so they asked me if I'd come over and have a look to see what the condition of the wine/wineries were, and if I saw them having a potential of making decent wines and not losing money. And I kind of gave them a 50-50 chance. Because there was a lot of work. There was a lot of things to be done. Because it was not. Keep in mind that it was like any social security system. That's kind of what it was. So if you were a grape grower, they were obliged to buy the grapes. So if you showed up with your donkey and 20 kilos of grapes and you dumped it in, then they bought it. So there's no incentive for quality whatsoever, right? None. No incentive for quality. And this was something that had gone on for a long, long time. And so it was endemic to the whole process. And so if they were to do something, they would have had to have done something quite drastic. And so we did that.